Hello everyone. So today what we're going to do, we are going to discuss 5 steps to build the powerful enterprise data strategy. Before we start, let me quickly explain why we need the data strategy, because most of the enterprises, they are not understanding the true power of having the good data strategy. Obviously, these days, every enterprise has a vision that they can manage the data efficiently. They can get the best of the data. They can make their decisions based on the fact that has been built on the data. But obviously, what is missing in the whole framework is the strategy. And obviously, in many enterprises, people are not even thinking of having the chief data officer or chief data scientist or information officer dedicated to deal with the data and information paradigms, which is quite unfortunate, because it's more like, if you are you are dreaming to build the data centric organization or data driven organization, and you are not putting the right team in place, it's not going to happen. I tell you, there are so many challenges that a CIO or chief digital information officer, they cannot handle by themselves. And it's a blunt fact, like we are all seeing day to day, that how things are going out of hand and how the modern enterprises are struggling with the data. They have plenty of data, very useful data, but they literally don't know how to use it, because obviously there is no proper strategy to get the best outcome out of it. So in this quick video, I'm going to discuss the 5 steps to build the powerful enterprise data strategy. And then in the subsequent videos, I'll actually explain each step in detail. So it will help you to build your data strategy for your organization. But keep in mind, before we start, a very important thing, that uh, people can only suggest the strategy. It's the team that needs to execute that strategy. So you need a right hierarchy, right people in place to execute that strategy. Secondly, most of the organization now, they need to change the mindset that the data strategy cannot be part of the IT strategy, because data has to be proved as a separate asset in the organization. It's now considered as a separate entity, especially with the advent of the big data technologies and the new systems that we are seeing in the market, that which are showing the capabilities of processing all these big data sets without any limits, like Azure Synapse, Azure Databricks, and obviously EMR from AWS, and obviously Google has now introduced big table and other big data technology. So all these big players in the market, and the whole point of providing all these capabilities, so organization can get the best of their data and information itself. But here's a catch: if you get the technology, it's more like you are getting the car. So for example, you are getting the Ferrari, but you don't know how to drive it, right? And so if you don't have a right driver who know how to operate the car, he might, or if you just put someone who doesn't know how to control the Ferrari or Bugatti, he might drive your car like WRX or maybe a sports car, right? So obviously he can still move on, but you can understand the point. He's not going to hit the target, which is your target, and that's why you put so much investment in Ferrari instead of an ordinary sports car, right? So keep in mind, these are the very, very now blunt facts which we are seeing day by day, and that's pretty unfortunate that most of the senior execs in many companies and enterprises, they are still unable to understand why their their processes are unable to address the challenges of the organization and data sets. So there are plenty of reasons, right? So one of the main reason, we think that, oh, data is another part of IT and IT need to manage it, which is not correct anymore. Data itself has its own identity in most of the organization. It itself has its own department, and it needs its own people that can be, data engineer, data scientists, data stewards, even business analysts who have data experience, and even project managers, program managers who have experience in delivering the data related projects. That team can assure that they can deliver the expectation which any enterprise has with the data assets. But if you try to merge it with the IT team or even business team, that will not help you to achieve it. Because another big reason why I'm actually claiming it, most of the organization, they have a limited budget. There are very few organizations like Google, Alphabet, Amazon, Microsoft, and all these big player, IBM, who has millions and billions of dollars of budget. They can afford to invest such a high bucks into their platform and technology and improve the processes, and they can do it and trial, and they can even distribute the work between different teams, because they have plenty of people on board who can actually merge it. Now, let me take a couple of steps back. If you have a medium to small business, and like you only have a couple of $1 million budget every year, and even if you have your 40, 50, 60 million dollar budget, you might not be able to gain the advantage like Google and Microsoft is gaining through their processes, right? So the only thing you can take the advantage if you invest it, or if you actually put a right process in your organization that can extract the right value from your data. So that's the only way that you can get the max out of it, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you are not able to get the value of your data. What I'm claiming in here, we are not getting the full outcome or full value of the data which we are expecting, or which is required to address the strategic requirements of the business. So I can go on, but let me quickly, because the topic is to discuss the 5 steps to build the enterprise data strategy. So let me come back on the point, and I'm going to show you those 5 steps that will help you to build a very, very powerful enterprise data strategy. So I think my whiteboard has already been shared, but I'm just trying to share it again. Just bear with me. I might need to stop and reshare the dashboard. Okay. Yeah. So it's in here. All right, here. So that's something which I'm looking, and I believe it was already shared. By the way, I didn't notice it, so I think I reopened it again, but that's fine. Okay. So the very first step, once you are going to build the enterprise data strategy, and considering yourself as a chief data officer, or you are the chief information officer, and let me stress it out. Chief information officer is different from chief information digital officers, because chief information officer or chief data officer, these roles are overlapping or supplement to each other. So being a chief, so the very first step, you need to identify what is happening, and we call it a searching phase. So in that phase, we'll see, because you cannot build the strategy without understanding the current dynamics or current platform or current process of the organization. I've seen so many people who think, oh, whatever is happening is not very useful, so let's start a new solution. It's a horrible mistake in these days. And I tell you by experience, if you are going to start something from scratch, either you need so much money in your bank account so you can, invest in, not in the technology and in the people and processes, or you need to assure the business that they need to be very patient, and you need, a lot of time to do it right, which is again impossible to buy in from the business. So the normally the good strategies or the winning strategies are which always identify what is currently available, and that's where the person starts scratching the surface and identify, okay, what are the processes which are linked with the data, and how these process as well as the data is linked with the strategic objective which the exec or the board is targeting in this year. So further we'll discuss the searching in its own video. The second step, you need to define the success, because if you don't know the success, you might spend the whole year, you are doing so many things, but if that is not related to the success, that is going to be a waste of money and resources. So be very careful while you are defining the strategy. Find out what is successful for this organization. Maybe, so for example, they are facing the issues with the data quality, right? So data is not clean, data is disintegrated, there are a lot of silos. But if you start implementing the new platform, which is obviously, and you are bringing the modern cloud-based platform, for example, you are implementing Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, it will definitely contribute into the organization value. But keep in mind that's not going to be considered as a success. And the reason behind it, because it is not resolving the issue which the enterprise is facing currently, right? They are facing the issues with the data. They have to struggle to process the data and to generate the true information out of the data. So if you are not aware of the success, maybe the day-to-day activities might mislead you towards the wrong direction. So that's why the second thing is very critical. So first thing, you identify what is happening. The second thing, you need to define what is success. So what I can do to make my strategy successful, right? And obviously all the points should be tangible, like achievable. It can't be, yeah, in 5-10 year time we have a ratio of the error in our data set is, for example, 40%. I'm going to reduce in next 5-6 year time to maybe half of it. So that's not a very good, success definition, right? You need to be tangible that, okay, we have, for example, the success criteria. We have 3 systems on our platform. One of them is CRM, the other one is financial system, and the third one is human resource, right? A very simple paradigm. We are going to define success that by the end of this year, we'll integrate this system. So we have a one single picture of our data platform or data warehouse or even data lake, whatever you are going to call it. It really depends upon where you are standing in your analytics maturity. Right, so that will be, because at the end of the year, if you are able to integrate these 3 systems, you have executed your strategies successfully, right? And you have actually reached to your target. Now, in the third step, we are going to ask the question. Obviously, we define the criteria, success criteria. we are going to integrate three systems. Now, the questions we are going to identify is part of the investigation. So third step is investigation, where we ask the question that, okay, what we can do to achieve that criteria. So what is needed to integrate these three systems? And there are plenty of things. And I think once we discuss the investigation, we'll go to with a proper example, so you can easily understand, okay, what normally the question we ask, so it can be pretty clear for not only us but as well as for the business, that okay, why we are asking this question and how that is going to be linked with the success of the data strategy. Cool. The fourth step is obviously once you have the questions, obviously the next step is to find out the answers, because that's where we execute our strategy, right? Up to step 3, we are defining our strategy. In step 4, once our questions are clear, and don't get me wrong, we are not going to follow the waterfall model, because waterfall is no more relevant until unless you have a very clear or process oriented organization, which are very few in the 21st century, right? So normally what we do, we keep improving our strategy, right? So we're gonna have a list of the questions, we're gonna see those questions, and we start finding out the answer, right? We're going to identify, okay, what solution we can build, what process we can define to address those questions. Because as soon as you start knocking off those questions, that is more like you are executing your strategy and you are stepping towards the success, right? So that's the execution phase. Now, execution has its own details, and I think if we take one or two examples, it will be very clear that how we can identify the answer and how that is linked towards the execution of our data strategy. Now, the last but not the final one, obviously we can have more steps, but in this framework we are just discussing last one, which is forging. Now that term is quite funny, like normally we won't use that term in a positive way, but here it's going to be a very positive terminology that we normally use to improve the solution, right? So obviously till question step number 4, we are in the process of execution, and in the execution, whatever solution we are going to build, that definitely require the improvement, right? Because that's where the whole evolution comes into the picture. Like we never stick on one solution forever. Every solution requires the improvement, and that's how the technology is improving and moving forward, right? So forging means improving the solution through Power Framework. Now that Power Framework is quite interesting because it has five major steps. One is the solution should be positive. The second one is any objectives on the significance of the solution should be addressed. Third, what else can be added to the solution? So for example, during the execution phase, if we identify something that can be a showstopper for our new solution, which is addressing our data strategy, so it can be added into the solution if it is sitting within the expectation, budget, and timing constraints. So keep that thing in mind, right? So sometimes we deviate, and there are many pitfalls that can impact on our delivery, because sometimes we end up in a rabbit hole that which it just waste a lot of our time and energy, and the gain might not be that high. So you need to be very vigilant while you are executing Power Framework, or once you are executing your strategy, that okay, if I'm going to add anything into my promise, what difference it's gonna make? Is it going to be raise the eyeball like everyone? Is it going to be astonishing people, like they're just gonna look at, oh wow, this is something really great, right? Or just more like the some additional feature to existing package, right? And whether if it's going to be additional feature, is it really needed or it can come later, right? And that's where the whole phase framework comes into the picture, which I'm going to discuss separately. So keep it this W part in your mind while you're, because you have to be very careful, because W sometime impact on budget and time. Uh, Fourth, which is E, which refer to enhancement, like do we need to enhance our solution? So for example, during the integration, we identify that we might need to define the master data for the organization, because obviously HR has its own employee list, and our financial system has the employee metadata, and even the third one, the CRM has some employee information who are processing or communicating with our customer. So should we integrate and put a standard list which can be controlled by only the authorized people, and only authorized or I would say relevant business users, they only have access. Now that is not part of the main requirement or main strategy, but keep in mind that can be come as a requirement, or that can come as an enhancement. Like we can still go with the integration, we can still integrate the solution, but if we put the master data services, which is obviously going to help us to implement the data governance and data quality improvement, that is called enhancement. And the last but not the least is remedies, like what kind of uh, what kind of fixing we can do. Obviously, once we start building the solution, we're gonna identify the areas that needs fixing. Obviously, not in the new solution, but even the existing one. Like for example, maybe these three system, the HR, the finance, and CRM, are not designed for the integration. So, is there any rough edges that we need to fix? So that's the power framework that can help us to forge or improve the solution. I believe that these 5 steps will certainly help you to build your own enterprise data strategy if you are on that position in your enterprise. But even if you are not on the on such a position, you can still take a full advantage in your day-to-day life once you are interacting with the data, because these are not like only relevant to the highest level, like not only on the C-level executive or chief data officer, even all the lower layer, like the director, the managers, and even the data professional, they can take the advantage while they are working with the data. And even if you are not working, but you are either the consumer or producer of the data, you can still take a full benefit of this framework. So hopefully you liked this video, and what I'm going to do in the next video, I'm going to explain all these steps in detail with proper examples, so you can successfully execute or implement your own data strategy and make data successful, and assure that your organization is going to be successful in achieving their objective. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.